Welcome to another great edition of Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr., and once again, my favorite guest host is on with us, Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. Welcome back, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. You know, I take more notes than I do when I'm teaching my students or in class. I love it.
Well, you know, I tell people if you're not learning when you're teaching, you're not really teaching. So, I love hearing that. And listen, I'm excited about today's show because we're going to be talking about freedom. What does living in God's freedom look like? And it's an important concept and topic for me because often people of faith are almost talked about like we can't be free because we have to do this and we can't do that, when they don't understand until hopefully they get into the faith that you actually get a kind of freedom that you would never know outside of the faith, outside of God's will. So listen, without further ado, this is another great edition of Be Lifted Up Radio. I'm here with Dr. and Ambassador Michelle Boone Thornton. We're going to be talking about freedom with God. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back. It's Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr., with our guest host, Ambassador Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. You know, Dr. Michelle, you're always up to something. You're always getting better. You're always doing great things. Talk about what's going on that's new.
Well, I've got a new position. God has elevated me to a position over at Region. I'm teaching in a PhD program. I'm an administrator over there. I love it. I love it just helping students get to the next level. And it's information like this that I actually take back to them.
Yeah, as an ambassador, your latest new title, if you will, how does that integrate into the work that you're doing, or how do you anticipating that to work that you're doing?
Well,
So it's a reflection of the work that you've already been doing in some ways.
right. It kind of puts me on a different platform, more of an international platform. I have a lot of connections with Kenya and just helping empower and inspire women, young women, and students over there. So it really does connect with the academic things that I'm doing right now.
Well, I'm really excited for the conversation we're going to have today. And again, as a business journalist, as someone who spends a lot of time talking about wealth and wealth building in the secular world because of my time at Black Enterprise, but also in the faith world because we are talking about abundant life, and that includes prosperity in so many ways. But one of the things that I always tell people is that real wealth is having options. And that you know, you can talk about money and assets, but the wealthiest people who may not have a lot of money, if they have options, they have wealth and you know, options, freedom. But often freedom is misinterpreted in the faith world, or for those outside the faith world, that you're giving up freedom when you align with the spirit and the will of God. So today's guest, I'm really excited about, one, because she's an amazing person all the way around, but she's also amazing on this idea of freedom in God. Let's welcome to the show, because I'm about to jump out of my chair, Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond, who is joining us for this edition of Be Lifted Up Radio.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for joining us. I mean, you're a speaker, you're an author, you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur. I probably could go on and burn up the first segment of the show talking about you. But what's going on right now? What's happening? What's interesting? I understand you're coming to us from Ghana?
Ghana, West Africa, yes. I am home. I've been here now, it'll be 13 years, July 1st. And when I moved, I loved it and I haven't looked back. I get to the States quite often, So I'm still a Chicagoan part of the year. But I just released a new book called The Diva Principle, which means divine inspiration for victorious attitude. So that's out there. The audio book will be launching soon. And my music ministry, Relevance, will be launching a single July 5th on all streaming channels. So I've been up to a lot. And before this, I was out with a group that's come in that's doing a documentary on W.E.B. Du Bois. So I've been out being a producer all day today and entertaining guests as well. So it's been just a blast. And a couple of weeks ago, we were hosting Stevie Wonder, who came to get his citizenship and get his passport, and it was his birthday. So there were plenty birthday celebrations. So, and then before that, we had Black Women in Ministry group that came, 25 women strong, and got a chance to escort them around Ghana. So there's always something exciting going on. That's for sure.
I see. Ambassador Michelle, what say you?
Woo! She wears so many hats, and not just wear the hat, but she wears them well. She just told you all the things she was doing today, and she looks fantastic. I love it. I love it. And so it just sounds like you've been a little bit of everywhere, and you just welcome everybody. Does that kind of spark your creativity? Because it sounds like you do everything.
Well, I do it organically, I hope. I remember when I first came to the Lord and I read the Proverbs 31 woman chapter, I kind of gave her the side eye. I was like, can she really do all of that? Till I understood that was the story of her entire life, and that she did all things well because she understood the season, the purpose of the season, and applied herself accordingly, so that by the time her lifespan had ended, she had a list of accolades of all the things that she had done, not just done, but done well.
Yes. I mean, just talk about some of the things, the journey that you've taken to become Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond. I mean, 40 books, songwriter, vocalist. I mean, as Ambassador Michelle just said, you've done so many things well over time. But what was that journey like for you? In the beginning, as you became the person you are today?
Well, I started off in advertising, and I really credit Tom Burrell for a lot of who I am today, along with a string of mentors who spoke into my life and modeled what my life looks like today. And that's why it's so important to know who you're walking with. Scientifically, it's been proven that your life will look like the three closest people next to you. And so one should really align themselves with what they want their life to look like, not just what they want their friends to look like. But I started off in advertising. But you know what? It's so funny because I feel like my life has gone full circle, because now I'm acting in movies in Ghana, and I just did an independent film in America too. And someone was surprised because I told them, I said, when I was a little girl, that was what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be the Black Barbra Streisand. I wanted to sing and act and direct, and be fabulous like Babs, And I got accepted at Juilliard, and my father said, I'm not paying for that. And I was like, what? He said, you get a real job. I don't even know if you'll ever really make any money doing that. So I ended up studying commercial art in Chicago at what was once called Ray Vogue School of Design, but now it's the Illinois Institute of Art. I graduated there and ended up working at Burrell Advertising, which was the largest Black agency in the country. So I ended up writing and art directing commercials for Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Schlitz Malt Liquor, Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Polaroid, Legs Pantyhose, all kinds of amazing accounts that were blue chip accounts. So I got to travel, see the world, meet celebrities, get in the recording studio, which kind of took me back to the edge of my dream in the first place. All that television production brought me to where I am today. all the writing skills that I acquired at Burrell brought me to where I am today. So it's
I'm
really
glad you
amazing.
brought up. I'm glad you brought your time with Burrell. You know, I've been at Black Enterprise for now 37 years and counting.
Yes.
My original context was from knowing you way back in the day was
Ah,
because of Burrell, because obviously, like you said, largest Black-owned ad agency. We covered them tremendously. I'm
mhm.
happy to say I've got to know Mr. Burrell very well over the years, and
Yes.
I was waiting for you to talk about that chapter, but I'm like, again, you've done so many things well in so many different areas, but I remember, your work with Burrell.
That was a major part of my life. And Tom and I still keep in contact with one another. Tom has been to visit me in Ghana. Him and his wife Madeline came over for 3 weeks, and they were here at the time when our new president was being inaugurated. So we got to go to the presidential inauguration. We had a great time, and we'd stay in touch, because for me, that was a major part of who I am as a person today. I feel like he trained up a child in the way that it should go.
Tom Burrell did for you what me working for Earl Graves all those years did for me.
Yes,
So,
yes.
listen,
Yeah, I drove him crazy, but I think I think we're both pleased with the outcome.
exactly. Listen, everybody, you're listening to Be Lifted Up, your guide to living an abundant life. I'm here with guest host, Ambassador Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton, and we are both here with the wonderful Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond. Listen, sit tight. We're going to be right back. Thank you for listening. Hold on.
Welcome back to Be Lifted Up Radio, living an abundant life. And we have a wonderful, wonderful guest today. She does it all, and she does it all well. Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond. She has over 40 books. And let me tell you about those books. I went through that list, right? And I have 3 adult children who are single. And so what book do you think I found for them? How to Be Found by a Man You've Been Looking For. That
Yes,
I
that's a good
clicked to and sent it to them. Okay.
one. You can send them Secrets of an Irresistible Woman too. They'll be surprised by the contents, but it'll help them. It'll set them free. I remember being in Atlanta one day at Neiman Marcus. I'm a shoe fanatic. I was in the shoe department. This woman came all the way over from makeup. She said, "Are you?" And I go, "Yes." She said, "Your book Secrets of an Irresistible Woman." She had a big old rock on her hand. She said, "Thanks to you. I did everything you said." I was like, I'm gonna have to have a talk with Jesus then.
Got it.
Well, listen, you said something about, people getting set free. And today we definitely want to talk about this idea of freedom.
Yes.
And, often those of us in the faith are we are friends that maybe not in the faith or have resistance to the idea. And one of their main points of resistance is that they want to be free, and you can't be free, and because they don't necessarily understand the kind of freedom that you have in Christ. But again, through your ministries, through your books, and through your own journey, let's talk about what that looks like for you and the people that you serve.
Well, I think that you have to have the definition of what is freedom. And to me, if you looked it up in the dictionary, the definition of freedom should be peace. Because when you're free, nothing owns you. Nothing oppresses you, nothing worries you, nothing troubles you, nothing causes you anxiety. That's real freedom. Freedom is actually peace, which is a tremendous aspect of kingdom living, which leads back to how do we get there? It says that, the kingdom of God is righteousness, peace, and joy. And it's not just talking about holiness. It's talking about alignment, right standing with his mindset, his heart attitude. And then the things that he says that we ought or ought not to do. When we're in that alignment with him, when we're in alignment with what he's thinking about, and you're following where he points, everything could be going crazy around you. You'll still have peace, which means that you might have a situation, but the situation doesn't have you, you know.
That's
Uh,
good.
so real freedom is just the ability to be above your circumstances as opposed to under them, you know.
You
And
know,
that comes from the alignment aspect.
yeah, Ambassador Michelle, just to toss it to you, but I remember when I crossed over, and Ambassador Michelle knows, Dr. Michelle, that I was raised in the church, grandson of a minister, the whole nine. But even despite that, I remember when I went from I have to do it to I get to do it. And that
Yes.
was like the Rubicon of freedom. Before, I was like, no, I have to go to church. I have to. I have to read the Bible. I have to. I have to. Which, of course, is like operating in the law. It's the Old
Right.
Testament mindset.
Right.
But when I reached that stage when it's like, no, I get to go to my prayer corner. I get to dive into the Word with real depth. I get to pray for myself and others. And that became that. Then I understood what it meant to really be free, because you're not doing it because you have to do it anymore.
Right.
Because you get to do it. I don't know, Ambassador Michelle, what your take is on that.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and Dr. McKinney Hammond is so right. Freedom is peace. People are always looking for happiness and joy and all of that, and that is so fleeting. Because, our circumstances change, life changes all the time. But if you have peace, you can sustain anything that's going on around you. I feel that, okay? When you were saying it, I was like, okay, I see what she's saying.
And peace leads to joy. I mean, that's the next step. It leads to joy. So you can't have joy without peace. It's fleeting at best, happiness kind of comes and goes because it's based on external circumstances, but there's something about when you've got gratitude in your heart and you've got your joy meter is up, no matter what's going on, you can still maintain your peace. You said something that is so profound that I don't want to skim over what you said when you said, I get to versus I have to. Because it's important for us to realize the minute we say I have to, it kills our options. You focus on one thing because you have to. It's like when someone says, don't look at the red dot. Don't look at the red dot. What do? You look at the red dot, right? Because that's what you're focused on. You don't see anything else, right? But when you say I get to, a world of possibilities opens up. I mean, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get to do this. So what am I going to do with all this space and all this freedom? When COVID happened, I had gone to London to do some speaking engagements. The president of Ghana shut down the walls of entry to Ghana for 7 months. So what turned into a week's visit at my friend's house in London turned into 5 months. And then a friend of mine got me my own apartment the last 2 months. But it was lockdown time and you were not supposed to be outside. I remembered ordering groceries, or if you went to the store, you had to be 6 feet apart and all of this, and you got to go like once a week or something. There were all these rules. Well, I had the best time of my life because I had told God I need a vacation. Now, I thought I just needed about 2 weeks, but he said, take 7 months. And, after the first month of catching up on Bridgerton and all the stuff I had never gotten a chance to watch, I started saying, okay, what am I going to do with all this freedom? I don't have to be anywhere. Nobody's calling and bugging me. I don't have to go anywhere. I get to do whatever I want to with my time. It's all mine. So what do I want to do? Oh my goodness. I created online courses. I created an online community that came on every Saturday morning and talked for 3 hours. I just had a blast. I got so much that I got my coaching certification. I mean, I used my time, okay? And I had a ball. I look back on that with very fond memories. Yes, I lost over 30 people in my life, but I also look back at what an amazing time it was of me discovering things that I'd always had this dream. I have this recurring dream that I'm in my house and I'm walking around in the house and I see a door that I never noticed before. And I open the door and it opens onto an entire wing of the house that I never knew was there. Fabulous rooms. And I'm like, oh my goodness, if I had known this was here, I could have been doing this and I could have been doing that. And I feel like it's God saying, there's so much more inside of you than you know. And so every time that he's ready to bump me up to another level, I have that dream and I know he's saying, expand. It's time to expand. It's time to discover another dimension of what your gifts afford you to do. And there's such a freedom in that when you understand that you're on God's timeline, that you don't have to rush ahead, you don't have to drag behind, that there's more in store for you, but you don't have to be desperate in your attempt to get it. It's going to unfold organically at just the right time as God remembers the appointment for that thing. And I'm telling you, there's the difference between you have to and you get to.
We're going to hold that thought because when we come back for this next segment, I'm going to say something you're not going to believe, or maybe you will. But anyway, this is Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. We're here with Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond and our guest host, Ambassador Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Be Lifted Up, your guide to living an abundant life. And listen, we're here talking about freedom and what we have to do and what we get to do. And our guest today, Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond, is talking about this dream that she had, and she, opened the door that she never noticed before, and there's a whole new wing of possibilities. And you're the first person I've ever heard say that, but I had this recurring dream that my house was a lot bigger than it actually is.
There you go.
Like I had this room, like you said, it was like 2 more bedrooms. It was just space. And in the dream, I was like, I need to do something with this space. I need to do something. That was happening like from, let's say, mid 2021. And like you, I went from, oh my God, we're shut down because, we took half salaries at Black Enterprise to keep the company going. And, like you said, we were worried about people and then it was like, wait, I don't have to get up right now if I don't want to, So I had that same sense of, wait, maybe this isn't as bad as I'm making it out to be.
Exactly.
But this whole idea of that also being awakened to possibilities that in my case, I wasn't seeing because I was so busy running and doing. Slow up enough to recognize, to get back to the theme of our conversation, how free we are at all times if we allow ourselves to be, because God's like already, you're free, you are free indeed.
Yes.
But if you don't think that and don't believe that and you follow the ways of the world, you're not free,
Right.
So Dr. Michelle, or Ambassador Michelle, because I'm trying to keep you doctors straight, jump in on that because
I am. I'm going to jump in on it. Yeah. And I want you all just to hold on because I have a dream that I'm in this old Victorian house. And, I have a thing about attics, but one day I go up to the attic and I open it and it's another house. Okay.
Wow.
Oh my
it's
God.
Another house. Now, I don't know if I'm in Alfred's dream or if I'm in Dr. McKinney Hammond's dream, or is it my dream? But it has happened for years. And thank you for helping me understand that whole expansion piece, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking I'm having a nightmare, but it's an expansion. And we get so caught up on rushing God's timing You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that we can't align with them, but we want to move ahead, right?
Yes.
All the time. And I think what you just pointed out is so great. Again, during the whole COVID pandemic, I had a chance to just look at my life and think, you know, God, it's about preparation, and you've given me this, that, and the other. Why don't I do something with it?
Right.
Right? I didn't have a chance to hang out in London, but I know now who to call if there's another pandemic and where to go. But
Well, I
um,
said, if there's a place to be stuck, this is a fabulous place.
right. But you know, it was the reoccurring theme here is expansion and growth. And you know, people need to understand that and see that you know, there was a lot of devastation that came about with COVID, but there was a lot of growth too. There
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I think that we have to recondition ourselves mentally to see every blockage as a redirection as opposed to a stop. You know, where is God pointing next? There's always a next. That was my last book that came out in September. It was called When Shift Happens, Say Yes to the Next.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell you, recognizing that our life is cyclical and seasonal. Change is inevitable, but how we respond to it is optional. You know, and some people get hung up on the insisting on life the way it used to be and miss the present grace of what God wants life to become. You know, it's very, very important for us to live free enough. And I think that the other word I'd have to attach to freedom is trust.
Yeah.
Trusting God, you know, that I'm not hindered. I'm not bowed over by the things that are happening because I trust that it's taking me someplace better than where I already am. And when I fix my eyes on the other side, something just happened in my household here that was really an attack against my money. And I told my daughter, I said, I must really have a lot of money coming for this to happen. She looked at me, she said, boy, when I grow up, I'm gonna be like you. You just crazy. You just, how do you get that out of what just happened? This person that robbed you, and you talking about, I must have a lot of money coming. But that's
No, but I feel you on that. Now, again, this
Yes.
is about living an abundant life. And of course, I work as a business financial journalist, so wealth and conversations about wealth is part of is everything I do.
yes.
It was during the pandemic. And this was, again, I could almost call the day. I could definitely call the month. Now I'm going to say it was June of 2021. And I'm sitting in my morning, and it hit me that when God, you know, cut off all income, I mean, not all, technically, I mean, our salaries at Black Enterprise, we all took half the income to keep the company going. Or, so, you know, no money from speaking engagements, no money. There was ways
Right.
to make money. It was like, this is it. And I was sitting there, I was like, you know, I forgot that I'm not the source. Black
Mhm.
Enterprise is not the source. My speaking bureau is not the source.
Yeah.
I have not missed a meal. I still have a roof over my head. I am fine. And the
Yeah.
idea that we often get caught up on resources and again, that's when we can get into idolatry instead of
Mhm.
remembering who the source was. So God was like, I took everything away you thought was your source. And
Yeah.
so it goes back to what you're saying, and freedom is rooted in trust in God.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you eat today? What's the problem? You know?
I missed nary a
Uh,
meal, and I ate well. It wasn't even like I barely.
Yeah.
I ate
I had
well.
my little groceries delivered and I just cooked. And then two people snuck out of their houses and came to see me to cook. And I was like, all righty now, you know? So it definitely, you know, the Bible says a lot of things about our mind. It tells us to cast down imaginations that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. What is the knowledge of God? It's His word. So anything that exalts itself against what God has promised and casts doubt and makes us suspicious of His agenda towards us, or makes us question, is he really reputable to do what he says he's promised? It says cast down all those kinds of things. Then it gives us a checklist of things to think about. Is it true? Is it right? Is it a virtue? Is it praiseworthy? And so it gives us this list. So we get to check off this list. And then it tells us, as we think, so we will be. So God is always addressing our mental state, our heart condition towards life and how we see things. And that's why it's so important in our freedom to exercise gratitude at all times. Because even when something is bad, you don't know what God was saving you from. You think, oh, this is terrible. Well, it could have been worse. It can always be worse. And maybe this was a wake-up call so that you would avoid the worst. So you never really know the fullness of what God is thinking about when he allows certain things to happen in our lives. But we can trust him to always make us better, stronger, deeper, wiser from the experience, and bring us to a better place than where we were previously. And I think that when that becomes our trust pattern, when that becomes our mindset, we're free to be above every circumstance, even when it's a negative.
Ambassador Michelle, one of the revelations that I had, this was when I was younger though, after reading the book Jesus CEO, by the way, this is many years ago.
Beth Jones.
Yeah, and it was this idea that often what we think of as something bad happening to us is an unexpected negative experience. But it's like, how many times do we have an unexpected positive experience where we just kind of take it for granted?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know what was coming either way. Why not count it all joy?
And all joy.
To your point, Ambassador Michelle, joy, freedom, or both of you, both Dr. Michelle's, joy, freedom, trust, they all go together.
Yeah, they do. They're all wrapped in the same little box. They're friends. They walk hand in hand, and it's really, really important that we do the work of reconditioning. What we just talked about are not things that just happen. They are things that we make decisions about, and then we discipline ourselves to apply to our lives. I think that a lot of times we're waiting around for this organic thing to happen. And God is saying, sin is crouching at the door and it desires to have you, but you must master it. Sin isn't always, an action. Sometimes it's our state of mind, the doubt that we harbor, the anxiety that we allow to overtake us, the depression that we allow to consume us. These are things that happen, but they should not have you. We should never allow that, because God gives us the capacity to master, it's called emotional intelligence. At some point, we have to make some decisions about how am I going to even allow myself to feel. And some people will say, now that's just, but really you have to. There are so many things happening in the world right now. You could just get tossed to and fro, up and down, sideways, if you don't have mind mastery.
You're right. Listen, hold that thought. We'll be right back. This is Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. We're talking about the freedom that God gives us to create the life that we want. Hold that thought. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Be Lifted Up Radio, living an abundant life. And we have a wonderful speaker, guest with us today who is just bringing so much wisdom and knowledge. She's had this amazing life. And one of the things that's just been burning is for her just to share a little bit about the diva principles and the diva attitudes. I like that attitudes.
Yes. Well, the word diva gets thrown around so much, so I kind of had to do a little research on to find out that it actually originally meant woman of excellence. until the prima donnas, they applied that word diva to, very talented women in the opera, like the top tier. But as they became more temperamental, then diva took on a different meaning. But it started off as, coming from the root word of divine and becoming excellent. So for me, it was based on 2 Peter in the chapter where it says that God has given us access to become partakers of his divine nature. So, and that's all about, the mindset of right alignment with God. So the diva principle really highlights biblical divas, believe it or not, from Esther and Deborah and the Proverbs 31 woman and Rachel and Leah. They all had different issues. Rahab. So there's going to be some surprising divas in there, but there are principles to be drawn from their lives that we can activate in our lives today and get the victory that they also got back in the day. So that's what that's all about. And then I'd really like to suggest that other people get my other book that came out a few months ago called When Shift Happens, Say Yes to Your Next. Because I think a lot of us are in transition. We're trying to find our feet. We're trying to reinvent, replenish, renew, refresh ourselves, reset our lives. But we have trouble knowing how to navigate through that. So that's what that book is really all about. And I share a lot of my personal experiences of change and growth. I've lived on 3 continents and 4 states and been fired, rehired, the same job twice. I've gone through a lot of changes in my life. So I think I know a little bit about how to navigate at this point. But God, it remains faithful. My music ministry is blossoming. We're getting ready to do the first release of a song called Your Presence on our project called Rock for the Rock. We're a fusion of rock, jazz, and reggae and Afrobeat. So we call it Rockspiration. It's a genre of music that we've created. And I also do Sunday school lessons every Sunday on YouTube for UMI Ministries. It's called Sunday School Made Simple. You can go to YouTube and look up Sunday School Made Simple. And there I am doing a lesson every week. As I mentioned before, I do tours to Ghana. I have a Divas Go to Ghana conference coming up next year in February in Ghana, West Africa. So it will be sightseeing, fun, and then also the interactive workshop to just clarify vision and give you a greater sense of purpose before you go back home. But that's going to be a life-changing trip. And they can go to my website at michellehammond.com to find out about Divas Go to Ghana. I do a Bible study every first Saturday of the month called Word Up. And if they follow me on social media at Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now,
these days,
Instagram,
right?
at McKinney Hammond. And then on Facebook and YouTube, it's Michelle McKinney Hammond. So they can find everything that I'm doing. They can log on to my website at michellehammond.com, get on the mailing list so that they get a letter every now and then to know what I'm up to and what they're invited to. So that's it. Other than that, I'm making movies and doing, running back and forth and trying to speak in between.
Yeah, Dr. McKinney Hammond. Other than that, you're not really doing much,
Nah, not a lot. Nah.
So.
Play with my dogs.
No, it's amazing because, again, getting back to this idea of, and I'm connecting some of the things that both of you have said: joy, peace, wealth, freedom, abundance, purpose. And once you slow down and, like you said, look at all the other possibilities, I tell people, you'll be surprised how much you can get done. People always like,
yes,
you're doing everything. You're in the gym all the time. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that. I said, well, first of all, I slowed down enough, especially during the pandemic, to learn what to say no to, so I can say yes to what I want to say yes to.
That's good.
Yes, that's very important. And very
off of that, you find out you can do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes, it's very true. And you just said a biggie there, knowing what to say yes to and knowing what to say no to. This year, I started trying to streamline because, I'm like, ooh, so many moving parts. And I was like, wait a minute, who's doing this to me? Is it God or is it me? He said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. If it's not easy and it's not light, you've taken on some assignments that weren't handed to you from God, and you really have to lift and separate. Did he tell me to do this, or am I just doing this because I think, what's my motivation for doing this? In acting, they say that, but what's your motivation for doing what you do? Who's driving your car? Are you trying to prove something to somebody, or what exactly is going on that's driving you, instead of you going with the flow of the Spirit of God who takes you? That's the only time it's organic, is when he leads you, because then he folds in what needs to be folded in, and he takes out. And if when we're walking with freedom, we're walking with open hands, and we allow him to do that.
That's good. That's good. That is really good. Walking with open hands. So, it's open to God and whatever he has. I like the part that you said about make sure your assignment is from God. That
Yes.
is so important, because, we can get hung up and start doing somebody else's assignment. You're
I'm
like,
telling you.
what am I doing over here? Right.
Yep.
That is important.
I've been sitting here laughing at myself when you talk about why, we can make life so hard by, and again, when I tell some of the people I mentor, when I say no to things, some of the things I say no to are very nice things,
Yeah.
I say it's not the things I don't want to do that cause the problem. It's the wonderful things I could be doing,
Yes.
not what I should be doing. And if I could say no to the okay to do, I can say yes to what I really, really want to do,
Yes.
what I really feel called to do. And part of the challenge of wealth and abundance, no matter how you define it, and I talked about earlier in the show, sometimes having options is a bad thing because you don't prioritize. You start thinking,
That's true.
I want everything on the menu. I want everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And having the discipline to say, yes, God has given me everything, but I should know that I don't have to take everything. That I can.
Right.
That again, that's gluttony, that's greed, really. When you say, yeah, I'll take it all. It's like, yeah. But you said it earlier about you've done so many amazing things in your life, and I don't know, Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton, the same thing about you, and I can say for myself, but it's realizing it's over time.
Over time.
There's order, and there's, I tell people the things I used to do prepared me for the things I do today, but I shouldn't be doing what I used to do today.
And that's freedom. That's freedom. Knowing when to let go of that to grab hold of this. When I remember when I was in school, they had these monkey bars. Did you have them in gym? Where they hung down and you had to swing and you'd catch one and you go to the next one and the next one. And oh my goodness, but your arms had to be strong enough, because some folks just weren't able to make it all the way across. But there was such an exhilaration of swinging in the air from one hoop to the next, letting go and grasping, and you were going somewhere, and that's the dance of life with God. He goes, okay, that season's up. Let's move on to something else. So you were like, what about those leeks and onions? Well, you know what? I got some chicken out here. If you keep coming, you get to the chicken.
Well, close off your analogy as the show wraps up. The key to being able to make it across there is not holding on to one too long.
Right. Knowing when to let go.
Knowing when to let go. So your hands aren't too tired to grab the next thing.
Yes.
Dr. McKinney Hammond, if we had another segment, I can tell you some stories, but we're out of time.
Oh,
man. All the time. We have such a good time. It is like we got to go. But listen, thank you so much on my behalf, on behalf of my co-host, Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. We knew it was going to be fun, but it's such a joy having you on Views Up Radio.
Thank you so much.
We will see you next time. This is Alfred Edmond Jr. Dr. Michelle, I know we almost wish you had another 10-minute segment, right?
At least another 10 minutes.
Okay,
Just to hear her wisdom.
We gotta have Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond back. That's it. We've decided. This is Alfred Edmond Jr. You're listening to Be Lifted Up Radio, your guide to living an abundant life. Thanks for listening, and we will be right back. Oh my goodness, oh my God. Freedom indeed. Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. I mean, I'm gonna let you summarize it because
let me tell you, I need a whole class session to summarize everything. But there were some great takeaways. She said to make sure your assignment is from God. That was powerful to me. And you need to know when to let go and when to grasp. You know what I'm saying? It was just, I mean, every little thing she says, got a whole notebook here from notes from her.
That's why I love having you as a guest host, because you really dive into it. And both of us in different, professions take this and we feed other people with it. Yes, the people, our audience who get to hear the show, we bless them, but we also bless so many others. And so, you know how much I appreciate you, just as a sister, across the board. But listen, what the word says, who God sets free, who the Lord sets free is free.
Free indeed.
So listen, everybody, you've been listening to Be Lifted Up Radio. We're so glad you're here. You can catch this episode and other episodes at beliftedupradio.com. That's the letter B, Lifted Up Radio. Same letters, same handle on Instagram, Facebook, X, B, Lifted Up Radio. We're on the Mocha Podcast Network.com, podcast plural. We're also on SiriusXM, HUR Voices, channel 141, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. She is Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton. Thank you for joining us on Be Lifted Up Radio. We will see you next time. God bless.
1, 2, 3, 4.